Commissioner, Ministers, Secretary of State, Ambassadors, Secretaries General, dear colleagues, I'm Professor Nette Schoenflug, and I'm the chairperson of GEAN. You are all very welcome to this political launch towards a new declaration on global education in Europe on the occasion of GEAN's 20th anniversary. And how nice that all of you celebrate with us. A warm welcome, ministers and participants from ministries and agencies, colleagues from international organizations, colleagues from other continents, colleagues from partner organizations and civil society, colleagues from GEAN's past 20 years. And a particular welcome for those who have worked for or supported or made GEAN possible over the last 20 years. GEAN started with its first multilateral roundtable on this day 20 years ago with a handful of ministries and agencies. And we are particularly glad to welcome those who were there on that day and those who have been part of the whole process. And at that time, the Secretariat of GEAN was located at the North-South Center, and a warm welcome and thanks to the colleagues from the Council of Europe, along with partners from the EC, the OECD, the UNEC, and Unesco. GEAN was founded to enhance global education. Global education is education that opens people's eyes and minds to the realities of the world and awakens them to bring about a world of greater justice, equity, and human rights for all. This is the wording of the Maastricht Declaration, which has been at the heart of what GEAN and our ministries and agencies across Europe, along with others, are doing. GEAN has grown over the past 20 years from 6 to over 50 ministries and agencies across Europe, together with the European Commission from 6 to over 25 countries.
I'm Liam Wegemont and I'm the director of GEAN. 20 years ago today, we set out to develop a new type of international organization founded on networking, dedicated to policy learning between policymakers, focused on the increase and improvement of global education and learning. I'm delighted that we have people here today who were there on that day and who have continued to work together for increased and improved global education. Today, building on these 20 years, we look to the future. Today marks the launch of a forward-looking process, first discussed in April at the Council of the EU Working Party on Development Cooperation, the CODEV. It is time for a new, long-term vision and for a new declaration on global education in Europe to 2050. We're delighted, on the occasion of GEAN's 20th anniversary, to launch the process towards this new declaration. In a moment, we will hear from EU Commissioner for International Partnerships, Ms. Jutta Urpilainen, who will open the event. We will then move to an interministerial dialogue. We will hear from ministers and secretaries of state of education, foreign affairs and development cooperation as they discuss the importance of global education variously understood to policy and to public engagement. We will also hear a number of statements. We'd be glad to then welcome the Assistant Secretary General of Unesco, Stefania Giannini, who will address us after the interministerial dialogue. We'll then conclude this event looking forward towards the process of the next 18 months.
So it's my pleasure on behalf of GEAN to welcome the EU Commissioner for International Partnership, Mrs. Jutta Urpilainen, to open today's event by briefly addressing the gathering on the occasion of GEAN's 20th anniversary. Commissioner, please.
On the occasion of the 20th anniversary of the Global Education Network Europe, I would like to thank you for your relentless work. EU is a firm supporter of your work for quality global education. As you know, education is one of my top priorities. Access to quality education can be a game changer for sustainable development. It can empower us to take control of our lives and our environment. It helps us to face challenges like climate change, the digital divide, inequality, or erosion of democracy. It can also promote understanding between people, the basis of international partnerships. I am delighted that you are coming together to agree on a new European Declaration on Global Education. I know this will inspire a new vision, one that is forward-looking and guides us all to the same direction.
When Jean started 20 years ago, we were convinced of the centrality of global education to education policy and provision, to foreign policy and to development policy. From the start in Jean, with our colleagues, national policymakers, with other stakeholders, and later with colleagues from the European Commission, we've worked to ensure that global education is seen as central to quality education and to an engaged and learned citizenry, open to, concerned for, and taking responsibility for local and global justice, human rights, sustainability. If that was true 20 years ago, it's even more so now. Some of the challenges to which the Commissioner alluded continue to cry out for an educational response. That response is global education. The world we live in requires global education. We've come a long way in 20 years, but there's far more to do until we get to the day when all people in Europe, in solidarity with peoples globally, will have access to quality global education. That's why we're very encouraged by the Commissioner's clear commitment to and support for the emerging process. And yes, the process towards the new Declaration on Global Education in Europe to 2050, we hope will be inspiring. That's why we're also honoured to welcome ministers and secretaries of state of education, of foreign affairs, and of development cooperation from across Europe to our interministerial dialogue to address issues related to the importance of global education. And so, we're delighted to hand over to the renowned broadcaster, author, and economist, Professor Norina Hertz, who will chair the interministerial dialogue session of our gathering today. Norina.
Thank you, Liam. At a time when the coronavirus pandemic continues to ravage the world, and in which collective action is our only way forward, a time in which justice, equality, human rights and sustainability are ever more essential if we are to safeguard our collective future, I am delighted on this, the 20th anniversary of Jean, to welcome ministers and state secretaries of education, foreign affairs and development cooperation from across Europe, north, south, east and west, to this dialogue on the importance of global education. And I'd like to begin by asking a broad but essential question. Why is global education important? Minister Bartoli, maybe I could turn to you first. Why is global education so important to foreign affairs and development for Malta?
Thank you very much. I always enjoy participating in your activities. Well, I think together with climate emergency, the biggest challenge that we face is the sheer act of being able to live together. It's becoming one of our biggest challenges. And while it is very important that we save the planet, let us make sure that we have human beings left to be able to live in this planet. And I would say that it is an act of civilization. We are all strangers. We do not know each other. Sometimes we do not even know ourselves. And it's up to us to decide whether we want to become human beings and share a common humanity, or to become enemies and tear each other apart. It takes effort, because even if we appeal to some kind of brotherhood, let us remember that Cain killed Abel.
Thank you for your very eloquent and impassioned opening for why this really matters. But I'm interested to speak to one of our ministers of education to try and understand better why you see it as so important to education. Perhaps I can start with you, Minister Saramo.
Thank you very much. Dear friends, first I wish to thank Jean for organizing this event, which could not be more timely as we are faced with numerous crises of global level. Recognizing the fact that we as humanity are in this together is a key to build global awareness. And global citizenship requires that the borders of one's family, community, or nation are not the borders of one's solidarity. So, dear participants, Finland was the first country in which Jean carried out a full peer review in 2004, and since then a lot has happened. And almost 20 years ago, the Maastricht Declaration invited people to open their eyes and minds to the realities of the world and build a world of greater justice, equity, and human rights for all. And such ideas of global awareness and global justice have shaped our educational thinking in many ways, and I think this should be how it's in everywhere. In Finland, we would like to do all we can to make it better here in Finland, but also with all Europe and all global community.
Minister Karameos, from Greece's perspective, why is global education important to education?
First of all, thank you very much for the kind invitation, and dear colleagues, it's a great pleasure to be here today with you. And I'm very glad that Jean is taking yet one more initiative, a great initiative yet again, towards global education and achieving even further steps in global education. I would start off by first trying to define what we mean by global education. And in my mind, global education is education that opens people's minds and eyes and minds to the realities of the globalized world. So in a nutshell, I would say that when we talk about global education, we're talking about education systems that provide the younger generation with skills. And I would focus on this word, skills that our younger generation will be able to use throughout the world, beyond countries and borders, in a globalized world. So in that sense, in Greece, but I think beyond, I think the real focus is on skills in order to achieve this global education that we're all aiming at. And when I say focusing on skills, I mean obviously soft skills, digital skills, life skills, focusing always on the 4 C's, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication.
Focusing on the key elements of global education that Liam set out so articulately earlier: sustainability, human rights, justice. Minister Brophy, would you like to add something about why global education is important to foreign policy and to Ireland's strong tradition, of course, of global solidarity?
Well, thank you very much, Professor Hurds. Yes, well, first of all, can I obviously congratulate you on your 20th birthday. We're very proud in Ireland. I've been a founding member of the network, and from an Irish perspective, global citizenship education is a really important part of the international development program and our broader foreign policy. Strategically, it's part of our response to big questions which face the global community, whether they be climate change, inequality, hunger, or justice. As a government, we have a leadership role, I believe, in defining the policy response to these challenges. And it's important for us to put in place structures and instruments to help us deal with it at national level. But that work, of course, is also involving the global community to design collective responses, we believe. We also very strongly believe that it transcends the role of government. It's very important to have effective and sustainable, and we need to bring communities with us, which is where the global citizenship education is really an important tool. Within our own country, we're very proud that more than 70% of post-primary schools in Ireland now have access to supports in this area. We're very, very conscious, though, there's a lot more needs to be done. It's an area without really a fixed endpoint. It's part, really, we believe, of this ongoing conversation which you are very much involved in organising, which will adapt to all the new challenges that emerge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to now talk about what are you actually doing in global education at a national level. And perhaps, is there one example each of you could share with me, or each of you who want to share on this could share with me as to what you're doing, so that we can share really between us best practice, and that viewers understand more what this means on the ground. So Minister Seremo, maybe I can come to you first.
Thank you very much. Actually, I kind of continue where I was, because I was talking about, first and foremost, it's about the SDG 4.7 on global citizenship education, and that it's embedded in our national core curricula in all levels of education. So it is emphasized through transversal competencies present in all disciplines. In Finland, teachers, they are very highly educated, and they have a lot of autonomy and are encouraged to experiment and innovate. A lot of emphasis is put on continuous professional development throughout one's career. And teachers also participate actively in service education, which emphasizes the Agenda 2030 in many ways. So we believe that learning must be transformative as well as lifelong and life-wide. And our government now, we have invested heavily in continuous and inclusive learning and innovative practices. Our goal is to raise the educational level of society as a whole. And so we have two, the big target is that we want 50% of young adults to have a higher education degree by 2030. And I think the behind of our success story in Finnish education is our continuous work towards equality. And as part of these efforts, we have recently extended the minimum school leaving age to 18 years. All schooling, including university, is now free of charge. So we have both the national and global idea, and when we talk, we want equality and equity in national level. We also try to work in all our policy making, also in the global level. Thank you.
Great. See, what you're saying is it's not only for you that the content is about equity and justice, but also the way that you're structuring the whole system has these values at its heart. Great. Really, really interesting. Thank you. State Secretary Fluxart, may I ask you to come in here on what Germany is doing at a national level about global education? Is there an example to share with us?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this kind invitation to this very important meeting. And of course, happy birthday to you. The German system is a little bit complicated because in our federal system, each federal state has autonomous responsibility for education. In our German government, the Federal Ministry of Education and Research is the lead ministry, and this means that we need intensive exchange between the central government, the federal states, the local government authorities, and civil society. And one successful outcome as a product of the cooperation between the Standing Conference of the German Ministers of Education and Culture, Engagement Global, and the BMZ, our ministry, has been the curriculum framework for education on sustainable development. The objective of this jointly elaborated recommendation is to introduce education for sustainable development with a global outlook into lessons. And I believe we need to build on this success. so that education for sustainable development becomes firmly anchored in both formal and informal education.
That is such an inspiring program, and it's great to hear the extent to which it's being adopted. I'd love to hear as well from our colleagues and friends from the Czech Republic who are with us today. Minister Feltin, maybe you could comment here on an initiative that you're doing with regards to global education.
Yeah, thank you very much for the floor. We are very happy to participate in this initiative stimulating the ideas on global education, which is for 15 years now embedded in the curriculum for ages from 6 to 18. So it creates a very important part of the content of the education, of the primary and even secondary education. And of course, there are many and very, very significant challenges for the global education as such. While it is still a media for contents like human rights and justice and equality, there are, of course, digitalization trends and digitalization connections to other various subjects of education. So we would like to devote the new curriculum reform partly to the global education renewal and revise the curriculum of the basic education and even the upper secondary education. There is, of course, a very important initiative, collaborative initiative with Ministry of Education and Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which targets the school pedagogues, offering them an education program, which is a experience education program where they can meet the international institutions and can explore the topics of the global education important for their practice when they come back to schools. So in Czech Republic, this area is very important, and for sure we'll highlight it in the oncoming phase of the curriculum reform, which we expect in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your perspective, and great to see this cooperation between the two ministries on this really important issue. Does anyone else want to share with us a specific on-the-ground example of what you're doing? Minister Brophy?
Yeah, well, just to follow up on what I was saying earlier, within Irish Aid, what we've actually looked at is the development of a new program around this. And one of the key reasons we're doing that at this moment in time is while there were very few, if any, benefits have come out of the recent horrific experience we've had with COVID, we have definitely detected that there is an opportunity to get that key message of global interconnectivity, particularly for younger generations, that what happens in one part of our world can affect and absolutely impact on everybody. And we think there's a real openness there to use that, to get that broader strategic message across about the importance of global citizenship and development education. And that broader conversation, we think, is key to things like achieving the SDGs, both at national level, they're also working globally on it. And we believe that we can use and devise this new revision of what we're doing to really bring in what we call the lifelong learning approach, which is to prioritize, to reach out to people who maybe historically wouldn't have engaged on these issues, but because of what we've all collectively been through in this last year and a half, that they will be open to this, and they will be a key part of what we want to be doing over the coming years is in that particular area, reaching out to those new age groups, those new audience, people from different backgrounds, and getting everybody involved in this process.
Thank you so much. And I think you're absolutely right. We've just been through a situation, an unprecedented situation, collectively, a collective struggle. And if anything good is to come out of it, it is going to be a recognition of our interdependencies. State Secretary Andre, can I turn to you now? Because Portugal is currently holding the presidency of the EU. And global education is obviously important to Portugal nationally. But why is it important to Portugal that it is on the European agenda?
Thank you very much, Professor, and good afternoon to all. And that's the right question, and you made the right question in a very particular day. Today is the day that, where first of all is the day when we had our Council of Ministers for Development, where we have also education and global education on the agenda. And it's also the day that enters into force the new financial instrument for development of the European Union, the NDC, that also Commissioner Urpilainen reminded us in her video. And why is this so important? Because it's for the first time that we are having an instrument with such a big focus on global education, on education for development, where for the first time we decided, and the Commission is putting forward a proposal, which is being backed up by many different countries, to have a target spending of 10% of this financial instrument for education. So you are posing the right question on the right day. And secondly, because today was also the day where we adopted conclusions on behalf of all the countries on the European Union on human development, where education plays a key part. As some of our colleagues already mentioned, education is probably the backbone of the recovery efforts that we are going to have after this crisis. And this is why the circumstance of having the entry into force of this new financial instrument and its conclusions binding all the member states of the European Union, it's so important today and really explains our focus and our commitment with global education.
We're here today, of course, on the occasion of Jean's 20th anniversary. And many of your ministries and agencies have worked with and supported Jean really for many of these 20 years. And indeed, some people in Jean tell me that it's your people who support global education at the national level who really make Jean possible. So, given that it is their 20th anniversary, do any of you have any remarks you want to make on this being the anniversary? State Secretary Flaxbart?
May I just continue what I have said? So we will continue to advocate and work at international level for education and sustainable development. And so we will work closely with Jean partners in this regard. So thank you very much for your wonderful work. And please allow me to give a special thank to Professor Schaumphofe from Otto Friedrich University in Bamberg, and to Sabine Seifert from Engagement Global for their great work. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for all of you for this famous collaboration and cooperation in Jean. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to add their congratulations to Jean on this anniversary? Oh, lots of people. So Minister Brophy first, and then State Secretary Andre, if I could hear from you, and then Minister Karemos.
I will very briefly just obviously join in that, and really acknowledging the really important role that Jean plays in facilitating policy dialogue and learning between policymakers right across Europe. We're really proud here in Ireland to have been involved since the start. As I said in my opening remarks, we're also proud of some of the recognition which you have given us for some of our programs over the years. And obviously, though, it is, I think, what you're doing today and the ongoing work of Jean really is vitally important. And obviously, as I said earlier on, congratulations on your 20 years.
I want to join all the others on congratulating Jean for his 20th anniversary. And to remind that for us it's especially important, Portugal is a very proud member and also a very active and committed member of Jean since 2004, which is 3 years after the creation of this network. And also from the national perspective, we always perceive Jean as a very important actor for the progress of development, education and global education. And we have seen this both at the international and also at the national level. Thank you.
And Minister Karemos?
Yes, I would also like to join my colleagues in congratulating Jean on this 20th anniversary. And I frankly think this could not be a more timely moment to discuss ways in which we can all work together in order to help move forward global education. We have a number of crises. I mean, we had and still have the COVID-19 crisis and the consequences regarding the expansion of education in the digital era. We have a climate change. We have other issues that unite us as well, such as refugee and migrant crisis that affects a number of EU countries. So I think that this discussion could not be more timely in order to highlight the need to all of us together explore new pathways for international cooperation. And I think that in this most challenging venture, the role of Jean is critical, and Greece will wholeheartedly support Jean's work in that direction. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, and thank each of you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to be part of this exciting launch today of the process towards a new European Declaration on Global Education to 2050. I really felt from the answers that you gave the commitment you share towards this important initiative. And I will now hand back to Liam.
Thank you, Narina. And thank you to the ministers and secretaries of state who've joined us here today. It's clear from your statements and intervention that global education, variously understood and differently defined, is at the heart of education policy and provision. Given the global challenges the world faces and that learners must address, it is clear that global education is at the heart of quality education. Global education is also central to critical public engagement with foreign policy and critical public knowledge of the causes and effects of global challenges. So thank you for sharing the depth and richness of national experience and perspectives on the importance of multilateral sharing and policy learning in global education. We also thank you for your kind words on the occasion of the 20th anniversary of Jean's first multilateral roundtable. Annette.
We have heard a clear support from across Europe for global education, and it really warms my heart to hear this. Thank you very much that you will support us in this process to a new declaration on global learning. And we are very much looking forward to work with you all and with all countries in membership of Jean. And we are also happy today to have further brief interventions, starting with Estonia. And I'd like to call on Mrs. Bridget Lau, the diplomatic representative for education, to say a few words on behalf of Estonia.
Dear ministers, dear leaders and members of Jean Network, dear participants. First of all, let me congratulate you, us, for promoting global education values for 20 years. And indeed, values are fundamentals, grounds we have been and will be emphasizing in the future. After COVID-19 pandemic and hybrid learning, but for many, unfortunately, no learning period at all, we must talk about implementing of global education. We have clearly seen the need to be aware of global developments for creating better understanding on topics beyond education, like well-being, like vaccination rights, like green recovery and digital divide and innovation. Thus, we must focus on multiply delivery methods, solutions, and guarantee that prerequisites for good quality education, like safety, food, and access is guaranteed globally. Global education stresses those goals, basic needs, sound and clear, but we must make sure that those global goals are also implemented. Global education has become a natural part of our foreign policy and aid work steadily but growingly. Estonia does not have the wealthiest economical nor educational system in the world, but one of the most equal and equitable one. Socio-economic background, education of parents, for example, or regional location does not play difference in having access to quality education And I believe this is the sign of having strong values in place. Changes for us did not happen overnight or will happen. It takes time to adjust one's educational system, and more specifically, it takes time of our international partners. The extent and I could say serenity you have invested in for Estonia has paid off. We have learned from the best, implemented many changes, also failed, but at the end, created a learning system where each and every child could flourish and become a valuable global citizen. We are as strong as the weakest among us. Thank you, Global Education Network, for being with Estonia on this journey. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Bridget, for your strong words and for the support and for the acknowledgement of value-based learning. And I'm now calling for Mr. Cyril Pierre, who is the Deputy Director General for Global Affairs from the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and he will intervene on behalf of France. And interpretation is available. If you click on your Zoom, then you can have interpretation from French to English, as Mr. Pierre will speak and address us in French. So, please, Mr. Pierre.
Merci beaucoup, Madame. Bonjour à Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres. Quelques mots donc en français, d'abord pour féliciter Jean pour ce 20e anniversaire, également pour vous dire que sous présidence française de l'Union européenne, nous aurons à cœur de progresser sur ce sujet de l'éducation globale, notamment sur une déclaration commune de l'Union européenne. Et enfin, pour vous dire que ce sujet est très important pour la France, pour plusieurs raisons. D'abord parce que nous avons un projet de loi sur le développement et la lutte contre les inégalités mondiales qui est en cours de discussion dans notre Parlement. Et ce projet de loi est vraiment un projet de loi fondateur qui met au centre la notion d'interconnexion des destins dans le monde, également la notion de développement durable, au sens où nous tous, en tant que pays européens, nous sommes aussi en développement durable. Donc ce n'est pas une affaire que pour le Sud, c'est une affaire pour nous. Et donc ce projet de loi va vraiment insister sur la notion d'éducation globale, ce qu'on appelle en français l'éducation au développement durable et à la citoyenneté. Donc il y a ce projet de loi. Ce sujet est aussi important pour nous parce que nous avons une feuille de route, une roadmap à titre national sur l'agenda 2030 des Nations Unies. Et c'est une feuille de route qui inclut vraiment toute la société civile dans une démarche de participation aux actions à réaliser. Et enfin, et je terminerai par là, je voudrais dire aussi que nous travaillons dans un cadre européen parce que nous avons une société civile en France, dans nos régions, qui est très active sur ces questions d'éducation au développement durable et à la citoyenneté. Je voudrais citer le Festival des Solidarités qui a lieu en France chaque novembre de chaque année, également un festival sur les questions d'alimentation durable. Également, nous organisons un Tour de France, comme le Tour de France cycliste, pour les objectifs du développement durable. Et puis, nous travaillons beaucoup aussi sur les questions de consommation responsable et de commerce équitable. Et puis, bien sûr, sur le sujet de l'égalité femmes-hommes, le tout à travers des documentaires, des programmes dans les écoles. Donc, je terminerai pour vraiment soutenir énormément Jean, dire que nous sommes très impliqués du côté français et que nous continuerons à l'être en vue de notre présidence de l'Union européenne. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pierre, and we are very happy about and very grateful for the support of France and for the connection you made between sustainable development, education, and global learning. So thank you very much. And by these kind words, on the occasion of Jean's 20th anniversary, we see an appreciation of the increasing and improving work in global education.
Annette, I'm here in studio where I'd like to ask you all to do two things. First of all, can you give us a wave? Yes, we have a wave from everyone. And also, could I ask you to do something? And particularly ministers and secretaries of state, if you're still with us, if I could ask you all to reach for the ceiling. Is that done? Excellent. And now I ask our technical people, is our colleague from Unesco with us? No. So look, we will move on and come back to our colleague from Unesco. We've heard today from political leaders and from policymakers from across Europe, north and south, east and west. We are very clear that there is a strong groundswell of support for the process of development of the new declaration on global education in Europe to 2050. Over the next 18 months, we will develop a process towards the new declaration, which will culminate in a European Congress in November 2022 on the 20th anniversary of the Maastricht Declaration. We start that process today. And earlier this morning, we had a meeting of policymakers from ministries and agencies, along with colleagues from other continents, to kickstart the process. Later this afternoon, an initial meeting with partner international organizations from the European Commission, the OECD, UNECE, UNESCO, and the North-South Centre of the Council of Europe will meet to consider how we best work together towards the new declaration. Next week and the week after, and in the coming weeks and months, initial meetings with stakeholder coordinating bodies, with youth networks, with local and regional authorities, will also engage in looking forward. And we will also involve colleagues from other sectors and other regions, along with colleagues from research institutions, including Angel. We will have a staged series of milestones along the way. In November this year with our Brussels conference, and in February of next year, and possibly in May or June also next year, as we develop a common but differentiated vision for a new declaration on global education in Europe to 2050. In the words of Paulo Freire, we will make the road by walking. And we will hand over to Annette now. Annette.
Yes. So, we look forward to work together with you and other colleagues in pursuit of a new and a shared long-term vision. And now I declare the process towards a new European Declaration on Global Education to 2050 officially launched. So, and with this process, we invite you all, and I really like to thank you all, and I would like to conclude by thanking our high-level political speakers, commissioners, ministers, secretaries of state, representatives from member states, for the political commitment to this emerging declaration process and for the kind words about Jean's work on the occasion of our 20th anniversary. And I like to thank you. Our thank goes to the policymakers in ministries and agencies across Europe. Your work at the national level is ensuring that we all are working towards the day when all people in Europe, in solidarity with people globally, will have access to global education. And we thank you for your hard work and for your dedication to global learning. You are the unsung heroes, quietly ensuring that the work of global education at national level continues to increase and to improve. We also like to pay tribute to colleagues in the Commission's DEAR unit, with whom Jean works closely on a daily basis, and we are very thankful for this very good cooperation. And we also thank all those who have made possible Jean in the last years: partner organization, allies, researchers, evaluators. And thank you very much for your critical engagement. And of course, we are very, very closely working together with our partners in international organizations, and we are very thankful for this cooperation. We are looking forward to our planned meetings later today and this week, and we will embark on a journey together. And it's maybe now the occasion that we have the honor that with us is today the Assistant Secretary General of UNESCO, Mrs. Stefania Giannini, to join us and to address us. Mrs. Giannini.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's a great pleasure to be with you today. Sustainable development will not happen without education for global citizenship. To build back more equal, more inclusive and resilient education has to transform itself, as already said. I see Giannini as one of the, how can I say, engines that is translating this vision into reality. On its 20th anniversary, I wish to congratulate this network and recognize its contribution to the networking of policymakers to improve and increase the global citizenship education, global education in Europe. The launch of the Maastricht Plus 20 preparatory process towards a new European Declaration on Global Education to 2050 is very timely, as more than ever, I do believe we need countries to rally around the humanistic values that bring a new vision, new solutions, as well as hope for the future. Countries have reached agreements on important issues such as climate change education, respect for cultural diversity, human rights education, and training and peace building. So we have to build on that, and we have to translate this framework, this vision, these common values in a real concrete action plan, strengthening the consensus around the role of education in addressing the threats to democracy, peace, and international understanding is of crucial importance, in my opinion. It's also time to somehow coalesce the different strands of transformative education that support these goals. Your efforts as Giannini in this direction will inspire other regions to do the same and demonstrate that resolve of world leaders to secure a brighter future. And UNESCO's role in this common commitment is really to share with other regions of the world this good practice and to disseminate together this culture of human rights based on the vision that education around human rights, based on human rights, can really bring something new and make a difference in these troubled times. This is notably important as UNESCO's member states will be considering the possibility of revising the 1974 recommendation concerning education for international understanding, cooperation and peace, and education relating to human rights and fundamental freedom at the next 41st session of the General Conference of UNESCO in November this year. I wish you really every success in your endeavor and look forward to our future collaboration with Giannini, with the European Commission and other international and interregional bodies in this in this contest. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Giannini, for your really warming and appreciating words. You framed the work of Jean in the SDGs, and you made really visible how important and urgent global education is now in the situation in which we are having the climate change, the pandemic, and a lot of other issues which are very in the heart of global learning. You mentioned and underlined the multilateral perspective we need. And that is what we are doing and trying to get global education from national strategies as well into a European strategy and have it together and in enhancing the multilateral exchange. So thank you very much for your warm and appreciating words. And thank you very much for the support and for the cooperation with UNESCO. And we sincerely thank as well the European Commission as a Jean funder and our ministries and agencies for their funding, with whom our work would not be possible. And a particular thanks goes to past and current Jean boards and to the staff of the Secretariat, who, as the Commissioner at the beginning of the session mentioned, have worked so tireless for global education across Europe and had made Jean's work possible over the last 20 years. We will have an opportunity in November to celebrate our history and to thank you more personally. Finally, thank you all for coming. Those of you who have been with us for years, and thank you for those who just celebrated and recognized us now, those who are new at Jean today, and we all are looking forward to work together with you for more and for a better global education. We look forward to do this more and better global education by a new European declaration process. And we invite you all to participate. So thank you very much and see you by working together on global education in Europe.